Welcome everyone to our next installment in our Dream Job webinar series. My name is Danny Rubin, and I'm the founder of Rubin. We are a provider of online instruction for business communication skills, helping students communicate at their best for opportunities. And we'll talk about the importance of those skills as we go along today. Teachers, a show of hands. How many of you see your students too often sending emails like they're texting you? Any hands up for emails that look like text messages? See some hands flying up there. So we help students be more appropriate, more professional when they reach out to employers, colleges, scholarship committees, whomever it might be. And I want to thank Wendy Crawford for being here, providing interpreter services. Thank you, Wendy. And today we're going to focus our attention on the world of pharmacy technicians through the lens of what you do in that job and also the importance of communication skills. And we have Maahi Subedi here, our special guest, who we will talk with in just a few minutes about her career thus far and her experience in the pharmacy setting. Before we dive into that conversation, we're going to start with some information for the group at large. Everyone who's been here before, hands up if you've been here before. If you're some returning folks, and hands up if this is one of your first time. Hands up if it's one of your very first time at our session. So great, we have some new folks always, and we always like to give out free resources at the start and end of our sessions. And we have some new material this time that may be new to all of you, even if you've been here before. And it's resources for career fair prep. Show of hands, who's got a career fair coming up this fall or winter that you want to prepare students for? So we have a free Google Drive of resources to prepare students for a career fair. And here's what's in it: how to research companies ahead of the career fair dress code, how to prepare questions to ask the employer at the booth, how to tell stories of success when they ask what you're all about, and how to write an email after the career fair thanking the employer for the chance to connect. All the resources you need to help students do a great job before, during, and after the career fair. And if you'd like these resources, I'll explain how to get them just a second. We always give out this resource as well to anyone who doesn't have it yet. It's an online presentation checklist. It's a one-page document on effective techniques for giving online presentations before, during the session itself, what to do when you're on, or even when it's being recorded. And if you would like these resources, whether you're new to us or you're returning to us, it's all you have to do. Go to the chat right now, type the word interested and your email address. Interested and your email address. And as we always do, if you are new to the Rubin community, new to our resources, our goal is to talk with you for 5 minutes on Thursday or Friday of this week to say hello, pass along the resources, help you to make the most of this content, not just for your class, but also for your school or your school district. Help you to share these career fair resources with everybody around you so everyone can benefit and get better with how they communicate during career fairs. So thank you to those who are putting their information. Please put the interested and your email, and I'll mention it again at the end. You can continue to do so. I'm going to move through our last remaining slides. Okay, thank you to those who have put their information. Also, if again, you know that we have a series. I hope you know that these are every 2 weeks. We have a super cool session in 2 weeks with an influencer marketer. I know we have a lot of healthcare students here today. We're switching to marketing, talking to a woman named Amber Miller who has done social media marketing collaborations with brands like Dunkin' Donuts, Fabletics, David's Bridal, Major Express, like major brands. And that'll be a really cool conversation too about what she does every day in her dream job on October 18th. So you'll see emails about that, but just keep an eye. If you would like these resources that I mentioned and you're watching this on a recording, just send us an email to support@rubineducation.com and we will pass these resources along to you via email if you come to us watching on a recording. Support at rubineducation.com. Finally, everybody here today with us live, you will receive a certificate tomorrow, Thursday, showing that you were here, that you completed the webinar with us. So keep an eye on your email for that certificate. Okay. And thank you to those, again, putting their information in the chat for the resources, which we will get you as soon as possible, starting on Thursday. Okay. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to bring in our special guest, Maahi Subedi, who we're grateful for her time. She's in a very busy time of her young career, a lot of change right now, a lot of transition going on, which is very cool, very exciting. So Maahi, let's start from the beginning. As we were talking before, like, where are you from? How'd you get to America? Tell us, the story quickly, and then bring us up to your work as a farm tech, and then where you're going to be next week. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Maahi. So I was originally born in Nepal. At a young age, I moved to Denmark. It's a country in Europe, for those of you who don't know. I lived there for a few years, and in 2014, my dad decided to move to the United States because he decided that the education system is better here, and yeah, just for a better future and career opportunities. So we moved to US in 2014. I finished my high school here and college here. So I have graduated college as of now. I did health administration with concentration in informatics. I also did my minors in health and social policies. After my graduation, I went to Nepal after 11 years and met my grandparents, met my friends,
Wow.
relatives, and I came back to the United States again. And I started looking for jobs. So then now I have landed at a position in Supernus Pharmaceuticals. It's a company in Rockville, Maryland. They make medicines there. And I am going to be working at the inside sales force. And I start that on Monday next week. So in between these years, I have had many job positions. A lot of them include customer service and front desk and everything. And one of them is pharmacy technician. So yeah, that's a little bit of background about me.
Thank you. And we will definitely spend a lot of time talking about your 2 years as a pharmacy technician, as that is the topic of today. And we'll talk about the communication skills and all those skills that transfer from job to job. By the way, thank you to everybody putting their information about the free resources. This is intended for the teachers. So please, teachers only emails in that chat thread, and you'll make sure it gets down to the students, but we're going to give it through to the teacher. Okay. So make sure teacher emails in this thread. All right. So let's start off over here. What I was doing, let me ask this to the group. If those of you who are new to us, there's a word, I say this at the start of every time. There's a word I always use when we prepare for a conversation, we prepare to learn about somebody else or somebody's company. What do we do? What's that R word? Who knows that word I'm talking about? Put in the chat, please. What word do we do? What verb? Thank you, Michael David. Research. That is correct. Make sure you're always posting where it says everyone, not hosts and panelists. We do our research. We look things up. We generate questions. I was on the pharmacy technician training program website because Maahi worked for CVS. So I was trying to understand the position a bit better. Let me get my little Zoom buttons out of the way. I was on her LinkedIn page, understanding where she had come from and understanding the work that she had done as a pharmacy technician. And while I'm here, I also want to mention just an interesting coincidence. I want to thank her instructor, Kathy Westphaling, for being here today and helping to coordinate this conversation. Our company, Rubin, provides an online curriculum called Emerge with a variety of writing and speaking skill practice. And I would have to share with you, we have a brand new site design. This is our brand new fancy course design. So please indulge me for just a second. And Maahi has actually used our material to help her advance her own career, which is very exciting to know that our material is helping students move their careers forward. So I had to do a little drop there for Kathy, for us, for Maahi, just to tie it all together that we have been a part of helping her and her classmates to move themselves forward in the health science space as one example. So I did some homework, tried to understand the position, and now I'm going to ask Maahi, so take us through when you're at CVS, you're working behind the counter. Paint us a picture of like what your day was like. Is it what everybody imagines? You see the folks in the pharmacy area just running around, grabbing pills and bags and out the drive-through window and at the front counter and just lots of hectic moving around. Tell us what was going on when you were there for those 2 years.
Okay, so I started working at the pharmacy in 2019. I was there until 2021. So when I first started, I have no idea about this position. Okay. Yes, I did do a little bit of research and like I was aware of the daily responsibilities, but obviously, without any hands-on training, I didn't know what it was going to be like. And especially CVS Pharmacy was my first ever healthcare setting job. So, and also I was doing full-time college and part-time job. So this was a lot of already, a lot of built up hecticness for me. But at the job, I will tell you, it is a very, very fast-paced environment. A lot of communication skills required. If you don't have that communication skills, background, I would really suggest you to work on that because anything, it's really important that we are accurately filling up prescriptions for these patients. Yeah, so they are sick people coming to you to get their prescriptions, and you can't make a mistake. I mean, it's on a person's health and life. So yeah, I would just suggest that you make sure that you have that communication skills. You know how to talk to your coworkers, your employer, your managers, and make sure that you have that different communication styles as well. Yeah, because that's really important. That's something I learned. So yeah,
okay, let me ask you about that for just a second. And I want to ask you a follow-up question on that. We talk a lot about follow-up questions in here, but as I do that, teachers and students, please now go to the Q&A area in Zoom. And I want you to start putting your own questions for our guest in the Q&A, not in the chat, in the Q&A. And we will pick out questions. As you write your questions, put your name and your school so we can give you proper credit for asking questions in our live session. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is what we always encourage students to do, which is to ask follow-up questions. A show of hands, if you hear something interesting and you want to know more, is it okay to ask a question and go deeper? Do you think, show of hands, if you think it's okay to ask another question? It makes the person feel like you really care about what they're talking about. So you said communication skills are really important. Now let's go drill deeper on that a little bit. Think of a situation in the flow of the day where like communication, like, is it writing things down? Is it explaining things to somebody else? Like, what specifically do you mean by communication where you're in the care of somebody's health? What is it? Give me an example of communication.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. And this is like when I first started at CVS Pharmacy, and it was a sad moment, but I'll get to that.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, I was just, getting started with my training and everything after the computer-based trainings. And there was a customer or a patient who, was picking up her prescriptions, and she had about 7 or 8 different prescriptions. I was at the cash register. I went ahead and picked out all her prescriptions, came to the front again and started saying out loud the prescription names of the patient. And she flipped on me. She got super mad and she said, "Why are you telling the entire world what type of prescriptions I'm taking? This is supposed to be, confidential. Nobody should be hearing what I take." She just started screaming at me and yelling at me about these things. And at this time of my school education and career wise, I knew about HIPAA compliance. I don't know if you guys know yet, but I knew about it, but I never had used it. Like, I never had hands-on experience with HIPAA. And it was
HIPAA meaning like you keep the person's information confidential.
Confidential, yes.
Right.
So I had to make sure that everything was confidential. And this was because of the communication gap. I realized after talking to the person who was training me, who was my coworker. So I asked her, hey, the patient like screamed at me whenever I, like said out loud the prescription names. You told me to do this, and she told me that yes, you are supposed to do that because I do that with every patient. Now we had a good conversation, but now it was time for me to ask the pharmacy manager if this was okay, because coming from the patient, I want to make sure I'm doing things right. So I went ahead to the pharmacy manager and I asked him, hey, like, am I doing this right? Because the person screamed at me and it's like my, fifth day at the job and I don't know what to do. So he told me that, yeah, you never, ever, ever say out the person's prescriptions out loud. Rather, you show it to them, so
Mm.
because retail pharmacies are always busy. There's always people, there's always
There's
a
always a
big
line.
line.
There's always a
Yeah,
line.
there's always a line. So you just show it to them, and if they say yes, no, that's how
Mm.
you communicate. You basically, you're silent communicating. um
Interesting.
yeah,
And
so
this is
they,
when we talk about soft skills, right? Because it's
Mhm.
knowing like the situation and how to communicate effectively so that they feel comfortable, right? And
Yeah.
you had to learn how to make them feel
Mhm.
comfortable. You weren't trying to offend them, but you had to learn, you had to make the mistake once,
Yes.
right? To then
Yeah,
know
so
how to do it.
yeah, definitely. Like I was glad that I, asked the pharmacy manager rather than just the coworker, just to get two points of views, I guess. And from then on, I never set out the patient's
Mm.
prescriptions out loud, even though there were like some patients would have 15 prescriptions, and I would never say it out loud. I would show it to them. So that's one of the communication skills that I learned. At the pharmacy, just being very private and keeping people's information confidential
That's
because
great.
they trust you with it. So
Oh, that's a great point. And for the students here who are actually, interested in a pharmacy tech position, I hope you found that piece of advice extremely valuable because, maybe she'll help you avoid an awkward situation in your first job. We have some
mhm.
excellent questions now in the chat. Thank you to everybody who has been putting questions in. I'm going to start near the top. And we have Tanya, we have Angelina from Blue River School. What are the work hours like? What's the schedule?
So it definitely depends on what you're going for. As for me, I was a part-time employee there. So I would have full-time college, like I said. So I would literally have random schedule here and there, depending on what type of or like what times my classes were at the college. So I would work 28 hours a week. I know it's a lot, but
That is a lot when you're
yeah, it is a
part-time.
lot for having full-time school as well. So I would sometimes have shifts that started at 8 and ended at 4, or sometimes shifts that would start at 4 and end at 10.
Wow.
So really depends on what you're going for. And I did have some coworkers who would work full-time shifts, and they would have 2 days off, and they would, they were able to pick out their time. So basically, I had a really close coworker who used to work the morning shifts because she had kids and she had to go home, take care of them in the evening, and be with them. So she would pick the 8 to 2 or 8 to 3 shift.
Okay.
So yeah,
That's great.
but the
That's
pharmacy, yeah, the pharmacy I worked at, it was 8 to 10. So I would have,
I see. You're
anywhere
either end
in
of that,
between.
either
Mhm.
either half of the day.
Yeah.
Question from Samira Nadali. What happens if you make a mistake? If you give the wrong medication or the wrong dose? I mean, it has to happen eventually. There's so many people, so many pill bottles. What happens if a mistake is made?
So a lot of things there are computerized, and you shouldn't be making mistakes other than counting the pills
Okay.
wrong. But there are some types of prescription that you must count twice, and after you count it twice, you have to initial that you counted that twice. And for regular medication, which have lower risks, you don't have to count it twice, and you always count by fives. At least at CVS Pharmacy, you count by five. So you do,
Hmm.
like, you visually see the 5 pills and you just, pour it into
Ah,
the other half of the plate or whatever, the tray. So that's how you count. But I have, like, personally, I have made a mistake in counting. It was actually a medication for uh, it was Adderall. So I counted, and this is control medication, and this was supposed to be counted twice, and I did count twice. Instead of 30 pills, I counted 29 pills and I gave it to the patient. Now, this patient went outside and she came in 2 minutes and started, telling me, I don't have the entire prescription. You guys gave me the wrong prescription, and she started flipping out again. So then my manager was able to see that it was me who counted because it said MS, my initials, and he just pulled me to the side and he said, "Hey, did you count this twice? Did you make sure?" And it was just more, again, communication. He told me what to do, so then I started counting it, and it was just a hassle because it was a controlled substance, because this patient took the medication outside of the pharmacy and brought it in saying there's not 30 pills, which is really, really dangerous, because what if the patient was lying, right? So
Right. They leave the
yeah,
store. You don't know what they just did with what you gave them. You can't
exactly.
see it anymore.
So the manager kept saying, you went outside the pharmacy, so there's nothing we can do. But then this patient kept saying, I didn't do anything, I got this prescription just now and it was like this. So yeah, so it was more of a counting mistake. So I recommend if, and also another thing I want to add to this, whenever you would count, I would have patients lined up to get their prescription at the front, and there were times when I was alone at the pharmacy, just the pharmacist and a technician, which would be me. And at those times, what I would do is count. I would take a little piece of paper and just write like 80 on it, because there were some pills which I would have to count like 164, and I would just write 80 and then leave, give whatever the patient needs, and come back and then count 85, 90, like that. So I would recommend you to keep like a little tiny like sticky note, just
Oh,
write
wow.
the numbers.
These are
Make sure
great
it's
tips.
accurate.
I hope the future pharmacy technicians in this room are really listening. This is some good stuff. We have a lot of great questions here. A ton of questions now, and I'm trying to combine people a little bit to ask as many as I can. I'm going to combine questions from Alicia Davis at Temple University and Crystal Payton at Kinston High School about the sort of hiring process. What was the hiring process like for you? And what would you recommend if when you came in there to interview, like what would you recommend to students when they come in to interview for the job, just like you did? What are some tips, and what's the hiring process like?
Okay. So for me, I had never had any previous clinical or medical environment experience, and I never had a pharmacy technician license or certification. The only thing that, got the attention or like catch attention for the employer was that I had strong background in communication skills. Because as I said, I did work many front desk positions, and, the face, like I was the face of the organization. Like basically, I started working at Panera Bread as a cashier. That was my first ever job. Then I was a guest service representative for a hotel. So a lot of communication skills required. And that was like strong point about my resume. Also, another thing is the hiring process. I had no idea that I could get this job without a license. And I just started doing research and, just looking for open positions online, and I came across the CVS pharmacy. So I just applied, and within like 2 or 3 days, I got an email from the pharmacy manager, and he wanted to interview me. So when I went to the interview, I made sure that my resume was, clean, up to date. And yeah, I just went in. The interview was very normal, I would say. It was very short, a lot of behavioral questions, and situational questions rather than medical or like healthcare questions. So I would suggest you to just be prepared for behavioral questions, customer service skills questions, communication skills questions. So that was mostly required for the hiring process for me. But yeah, that's
Okay. And you said, we were talking prior, that you would need to get certified within like 6 to 9. Tell us
yes.
about that, that you, at some point in that role, you'll need to, and what is the certification? What is it?
Yeah, so it's called a certified pharmacy technician. You can either be state certified or nationally certified, as far as I know. I am nationally certified because I did I completed the type of exam that is on the national website. But you kind of work in the field for 6 to 9 months. So 6 months, I would say 6 months. And then you're required to do the exam, which is a written exam, very long, very hard, I would say. So a lot of preparations to do. It basically asks you questions about drugs, what they do, what they mean, all of that stuff. So that exam you take, and then you become nationally certified pharmacy technician. And the exam that I did was from the National Associations of Healthcare. I believe that's the website. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to check. Yeah, National Healthcare Association. So that's where I did the licensing from.
National
Um,
Healthcare Association.
yeah, and there are two types of pharmacy technician certifications. One of them is the hospital setting one, and the other one is a retail store setting one. I did the hospital store or not hospital setting one first, and this exam I failed because I had no idea what these questions were. They were a lot like related to hospital setting. So I really recommend you to make sure that you're doing, like if you are working at a pharmacy at a retail store like CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, make sure that you do the exam that says retail store, because you will know what these questions are because you have been in that environment for
Yeah, of course. That makes
so
a lot
yeah.
more sense. And again, these are just excellent insights for students approaching this career field, because she's just giving you all these things that might trip you up, and you can
Yeah.
learn from her mistakes, or not mistakes, but just things that were confusing or caught her off guard, and now you're going to get ahead of it. Some great questions here. Thank you from Temescal Canyon High School. I appreciate all your great questions. Question here: what was your favorite part of the job? What did you enjoy the most when you came in for your part-time hours?
The thing that I enjoyed the most was definitely the environment. I I don't know if it was the team that that I got to work with, but they definitely made me feel happy, and it was a very fast environment, and I'm somebody who loves working at a fast-paced environment. Like I cannot sit down and just wait for something to
Sure.
happen. I have to be at like something that's always requiring me to run over here, run over there, getting things done at always, because time goes fast too. So I love keeping myself busy, and I really like the environment at CVS Pharmacy. And most importantly, I got to be in a healthcare environment, and that's something I wanted to work for. So yeah, that's basically something that I liked. And also, it really improved my communication skills. It definitely got me closer to the patients. I was able to know so many people a day and always share, like I always got to learn something new, so that's definitely that.
That's great. I was trying to find, there's so many questions. I was trying to find one. So credit to whomever asked it this way. You've moved on. You're starting a brand new job at a medical sales role on Monday. But do you believe that working as a pharmacy technician part-time helped you prepare for the role? So
Yeah.
now someone could do that particular pharmacy technician job for a whole career. Nothing wrong with that. But could you also view it as a stepping stone to other jobs? You saw it as like a foundation for you to go do other things. Do you believe
Yeah,
that?
definitely. Because after being working at the CVS pharmacy for 2 years, later on it was getting too hectic for me to balance school and CVS, because it was a lot for me at that time, just because of the full-time school and a lot of hours at the pharmacy, and I was always tired, not eating right. So I started looking for other jobs, and I landed at a physical therapy office, front desk again. It was called the job position was called patient care coordinator. I worked at the physical therapy office for 1 year before landing at this job. So basically, I feel like CVS actually helped me, guide my way to this job, because I had no idea that I was eligible to even work at a doctor's office.
Hmm.
So yeah, I feel like it teaches you a lot about healthcare, a lot about, if you like the healthcare and if you want to pursue something in the healthcare, whether it's nursing, doctor, pharmacy technician, pharmacist. I feel like this job just acts as like a foundation
Mm,
to anything that's related to healthcare, I feel like. And definitely being able to have a job now at the pharmaceutical company, I feel like this little career that I had with CVS definitely helped me, because now whenever like my managers are talking about some type of medication and some type of, the class of the medication, I know what they are because of
yeah,
CVS. If I
yeah.
never worked there, I would have been like, what does that mean?
It would be much
So
harder to
yeah.
get up to speed. We have a lot of questions here about the pay and whatever you're willing to share. Like when you were part-time, can you share your hourly wage with what you were making while you were a student?
Mhm.
Start with that. We have a question here from Crystal Brown, and a lot of people have asked the question about what's a pay. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so definitely I can tell you the pay and the wage. So basically when I was interviewing, I was offered $13 per hour. But I negotiated myself, I love to negotiate. I want to suggest you that you can always ask your employer or your, person that you're interviewing with, just ask them like, hey, is this negotiable? Because you want to be paid, you want to be paid more than they're offering. So it's never I know it's scary to ask, but like it, it won't do anything to your job, or like, the job
Right.
you're
They
getting.
either
They're
can
not
say
gonna,
yes or no.
yeah, all they're gonna say is yes or no. If yes, good. If no, okay. So basically I always ask, and this is something I learned over the past, however many jobs I've had. So I just asked if this was negotiable and if we could bump it up to 14, and he said yes. So yeah, 14 was my pay. The only sad part is that even when I was certified, I wasn't given a raise, and I did talk to my manager again. Hey, am I gonna get a raise for the wage that I'm getting paid, because I got my license and certification and everything. And he said no. So that's the only downside of it, but it's definitely worth it to ask at the beginning.
Okay, so the whole time you were there it was $14 an
$14
hour.
an hour.
And what's the
And
like if I'm sorry, go ahead, finish your thought.
yeah. So while I was working at CVS, and after being certified, obviously I was expecting a raise, but they didn't give me a raise. So I did look for other pharmacy jobs, such as Walmart and Costco. I have heard that they do give you like a bigger wage per hour. And this is something I've heard from my close friends who are pharmacy technicians. Yeah, so I would recommend you to, look around for these positions, not just stick to one retail. So yeah.
That's great. That's a very honest answer. I know students appreciate. Student, let's do a little pop quiz. Let's go back about 10 minutes. She said when she was counting medicine, it was in sets of what? What number is it in the set of? Thank you very quickly. Gavin, Raymond, Jasara, thank you. And she just talked about the hourly wage that she negotiated up. What number was she paid? What dollar amount per hour was she paid while she was at CVS? Thank you, Tia, Raymond. And let's remember that the dollar sign goes on the left side of the number, not on the right. These are the little soft skills, the communication skills that we develop as we grow older and learn how to communicate. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing about that. Do you have a customer you think back that you always remember very fondly, somebody very nice to you, or you had a nice relationship with? Because you end up seeing these people regularly, if it's every week or every 2 weeks, every month, like you see them all the time. So does anybody stick out to you that you recall developing a nice friendly relationship with?
Yeah, a lot of people from my country actually, they
Ah,
would see
which
somebody
one? You've been in a lot of countries. Nepal?
from Nepal. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I would, I would have a lot of patients come in from Nepal and they wouldn't know how to say something to me. Like, because
Ah,
as a pharmacy technician, you are somebody who they come up to first and ask questions like, hey, I have a burn here. Like, do you recommend anything to me that I can, quickly use? So those type of questions, they didn't know how to ask in English. And I feel like having the power of speaking so many languages. So I just
tell
want
us
to
the
share.
languages you speak. Tell them the languages you speak. It's
Yes.
incredible.
And so I speak Nepali, Hindi, English, Urdu, Danish. So 5 languages fluent.
All of
So
them.
basically, it really helped me because, I would have patients from India, Pakistan, all come up and then they won't know what to say. They don't even know how to ask for their prescription. And I would be like, hey, I can, like, where are you from? I can speak, I can speak Nepali or Hindi. And they would tell me, hey, like, I have some itch here. Like, do you recommend a medication for me? And then I was like the mediator for
Yeah,
them and the pharmacist. So yeah, that was really fun. And a
that's
lot of people from Nepal and like India and Pakistan I built relationships with. So
wow. Okay, I'm going to ask another follow-up question. I really want to impress this upon the students. It is okay, and it's a good quality to show you want to understand more. You said 5 languages:
mhm.
Nepali, Danish, Hindi, English, and there's a fifth one I didn't recognize. What was that fifth one you said you speak?
It's Urdu. So it's a language.
Urdu. Okay,
Yeah.
Urdu. Thank you.
Mhm.
I didn't, I thought I said undu or something and I didn't catch it right away. And again, let's imagine that, I want to, let's say that one day at your new job, you're going to flourish there, be successful, and you're going to have to hire someone under you. And they
Mhm.
come in for the interview and you say a term or an abbreviation they don't know. Would you want that person to say, do you mind telling me, what that meant? I didn't know that. Is it okay for someone to ask about
Yeah,
something they don't understand? Would that be okay to
definitely.
you?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you should never be afraid to ask questions. I'm somebody who, who will literally say, "Hey, I made a mistake. Like, help me fix this." I would rather want to learn something than just leave it at that and not know anything about it in the future. So definitely don't ever say like, "Hey, I don't know how to ask this. Should I ask this?" Don't doubt yourself. Just ask because
Hmm.
what's going to happen, the person is going to explain to you what it is, or they're going to say, I'm not going to explain to you, which is rare. So
Very rare
yeah.
for someone to
So
be like, don't ask me any questions. That almost
yeah.
never happens. It's like,
In
unless it's something
fact,
that you absolutely should have already known, like,
yeah, yeah.
but if it's, you're just trying to learn, people want to
Mhm.
feel like they can teach somebody else who's very interested and wants to be taught.
Yeah,
And that's what I want
definitely.
students to understand. It's okay to do that. Now we're going to
Mhm.
take Maahi, stay with us. We're going to do this all together. We talk a lot in our program about writing skills. On our
Mhm.
webinars and our curriculum, we're big on writing skills. And so
Yeah.
I want us to do a quick exercise together. Okay, I'm going to share a slide with everybody about the power of numbers. We've already been talking about numbers earlier in the session, about counting pills, right? And about being precise with our numbers, right? This goes
Yes.
right in line with that. So just follow me here. Okay, I want every student right now or teacher be on the controls and help students. I want us to read this line together and we're going to add some numbers. We held a benefit that a lot of people attended and we raised a great deal of money. Think about your resume, your portfolio, your applications, your essays, or even in an interview setting. I want you to think about how you're going to add numbers to your experiences instead of vague language like a lot of or a great deal. So I want you right now in the chat, this is in the chat now, it's okay, you can go to the chat. I want you to rewrite this sentence, and where you see the words in red, I want you to put an actual number instead and practice the power of using real numbers to demonstrate your ability to do something right now. And as we do this, and I'll wait for some examples in the chat, Maahi, we can talk about this. So let's say that from your role, 2 years as a pharmacy technician at CVS, you could say, you didn't say over 2 years, I worked with many people. You could say I worked with over 1,000 customers, right? Or I filled pill bottles with 500,000 pills. Or if you really thought about it, the numbers that you worked with in total could be really huge, right? And really impressive. Instead of saying I worked with many people, filled many bottles, right? Don't you think that when you add numbers, it makes something seem even more significant and real.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, I feel like using those details really makes a difference
They
because,
absolutely. And we
yeah,
have some
because,
great examples here. We held
mhm,
a benefit that 47 people attended. We raised $3,857, very specific. Thank you for doing that. Hundreds of people attended. And again, Gavin, that's good, but let's be even more specific than hundreds, right? Let's say 500, 550 people, 350 people. Let's get a real number. Let's see a number. I promise you, raise your hand here if you're working on your resume this year. Anybody working on their resume right now? I promise you that if you put numbers like this on your resume, like 47, 38, 57, 25, 50,000, I promise if you put numbers, the reader is going to see the numbers right away before any other words. The words fall away, the numbers stick. And if your resume is full of numbers, it's going to make you more interesting and someone they want to call back. Thank you to all these examples. Let's look through a few more. 100 people, $10,000, 50 people, $2,750, 100 people, $1 million. I mean, if you raised $1 million to something and you just said a great deal of money, I think you're selling yourself way short, right? I mean, who's going to know that it was a million except you? 100 people, 10,000, 1,000, 20,000, 60 people, a million, 500, 100,000, 54,000. There's so many. 100, 1,000, 45,000. This is great. I appreciate everybody sharing these examples. I can't stress to you enough how powerful it is to bring your details into your resume, your interviews, your career fair. Be ready to share your numbers. And teachers, this is an opportunity to help students find their own numbers, to bring them to the surface. Say, okay, you worked at a restaurant this summer. How many people did you serve or did you sit? Like maybe you were a host or hostess. How many people did you sit in one night? How many people did you sit in a week? How many in a month? How many in the summer? Think about the numbers, how big they can get, how impressive they are, instead of just saying, I was a hostess or host at a restaurant, at a busy restaurant, right? The difference is huge. And it's the difference between somebody reaching out and saying, I want to talk to this person versus just one more resume flying on by. We're going to wrap up in just a moment with our special guest who's been fantastic today. I want to reiterate to those who came in just a little bit after we started, we put together a free Google Drive resource for career fair preparation with all the resources listed here, how to research a company ahead of time, the dress code, preparing questions, telling your success stories with numbers, how to write an email after the career fair to the employer, everything for free in a nice and tidy Google Drive folder, as well as an online presentation checklist of how to prepare and deliver effective online presentations. And if you missed this offer at the front, here it is one last time. Please go to the chat right now, type the word interested and your email address, interested and your email address, and we will give you this material for free. And you can pass it along to other teachers in your school, in your district. And if you're new to our community, we want to speak to you for 5 minutes on Thursday or Friday. So look out for a Google invitation or an invitation on your calendar in the next few hours. And if the time does not work, you just suggest a new time. It's no big deal. It's a very fast call to make sure you have the material and you know what you're doing with it. So we can take today's conversation beyond today and into the rest of your school year. Also, finally, we have another great session on October 18th. We're talking to an influencer marketer about the work she does as her dream job. So look out for information on that. And also, everybody today is going to get a certificate for being with us in our session. So look out for that certificate in your email as well. I want to wrap up the last minute with our special guest. Can we just see some hands up for Maahi saying thank you for giving us her time? It's such an exciting time in her career. She's getting ready on Monday for a brand new job. Maahi, any last advice to students who were thinking about, or maybe they didn't even know what this job was 45 minutes ago? What's your best advice for students in school to start exploring the job now? What would you say?
Yeah, for students who are still in high school, if you have the opportunity to take that pharmacy technician class, I would really recommend you to. And I saw so many, schools on the chat that were offering this class, and really good for you, because at my high school there was this opportunity, but it was not at the high school. And, you know, a lot of people were not able to take that class
Mm.
because it was offered at a different school. So they had to travel to and from to that school. One of my friends actually completed her, you know, pharmacy tech certification while she was at high school and was able to get a job right away. Also, there was another questions about being how old I was when
Oh,
I
yes.
started. I was 18, I think 19. And I think there's an age, you know, for to become a pharmacy technician, you have to be 18 to work at this
Okay.
position. So yeah,
Wonderful.
my sister is 17, and you know, she was also trying to do this, but she can't because she's still 17. So
Almost. 18
yeah,
is not bad for a career
18.
like this. 18
Hmm.
is pretty early on. You can jump
Yeah.
in. So again, thank you, Maahi, for all of your time and your great advice. Thank you, Wendy Crawford, for your services as well. Thank you out there for being with us. I hope we'll see you in 2 weeks. Look out for the recording and the certificate, all that stuff coming at you in your emails in the coming day or so. Good luck the rest of your school day and in your October, and we will see you very soon. Have a great day.